Okay. Sorry for the slow start. Let me see. I think I got everything. Yay! Thank you, Druid. You guys, look who's back! Guess who's back? Druid's back! I was gonna try to do a Slim Shady thing, but I can't remember any of the words to that song, so. Yay! We are so glad to have Druid back. It's been too long, girl. I know you've had personal stuff to work on, but we are so excited to have you back. We've missed you. And I think you told us on Saturday, Jill and I saw you on Saturday, that you got some internet out in the country. So we're so excited for that. I hope it's good. Yeah. Yeah, I know you had priorities though, but we miss your sunshine and your quips. So, sorry I got a slow start today. I've got a case of the Mondays, and I was two-fisting some lunch. Wow, it was a crazy weekend. Got some things done on Saturday, but we love you, Druid. You got a whole gang of people that loves you here. So, mwah, 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 mwah. So we did. Jill and I did Stitch and Glitch on Saturday, and I got a few things done. Some project stuff I'm working on. I showed off some of it here, and then I showed off some of it on Stitch and Glitch. And I'm sure it makes no sense to anybody yet. I'm not sure it makes sense to me yet, but I will continue sharing the progress. It's never a good idea to double fist tacos. And then yesterday I went to a quilt study. It is that time again. It's crazy how fast time goes. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, it's time for another one. This one is one that I go to in McLean, Virginia, which is just outside of DC. And it's hosted by Hazel Carter, whose name you might recognize. She started the Quilters Hall of Fame, and Bunny Jordan, who is a quilt researcher. And together I'm not sure how long they've run this this group. I think it's for quite a while. I actually was invited, I guess it's been a year and a half or so now. I was invited by one of our friends from Mary Fonz's Quilt Nerd. She lives in the DC area, and she's a member of the group, and she had invited me and introduced me to everybody, and so I've been going since. And I guess July is probably not a great time for quilt studies and get-togethers, because I think everybody has got summer stuff going on and vacations and all that stuff. So there was only a few of us there. I think there was, I think Bunny said that she had gotten like 11 RSVPs. And, hey, Robin, she'd gotten 11 RSVPs, and I think like there was 9 or 10 of us there. So, and it was a 3.5 hour or 3 hour ride for me round trip. So I was like, ugh. But I got to see some amazing quilts. Our friend Debbie Cooney is one of the 6 know-it-alls. She does a lot of quilt turnings and things. I've seen quite a number of the quilts from her collection, and she had some amazing ones yesterday that I had not seen before. The theme was small, so that could mean doll quilts, baby quilts, things with very tiny print, small piecing, whatever. And it was interesting because everybody kind of brought a broad array. I just don't have really any small things that are old, vintage or antique. Everything I have is fairly new. So I brought a couple of my pieces and a piece that somebody made for me. And I brought my West Town Girls Globe reproduction, because I thought, well, that's small and made by girls historically and stuff. So and so we did see some doll quilts and baby quilts, but saw some quilts with some microscopic piecing, like bed-sized quilts with blocks that are like yay big, and I'm talking like Lemoyne stars, baskets, that kind of thing. I was like, wow. And there's one I am hoping I'll get permission to show you guys. but it was a trip around the world. And, trip around the world, those because it starts off like in the center, and then it's just like rings of color around and around, and it just grows bigger and bigger. And typically they're like, I don't know, like 1.5 inch blocks. I mean, they're still fairly small blocks. Sometimes people refer to them as postage stamp quilts, because of that size. This quilt, and it was Bunny's quilt. I can't remember where she said she bought it. It might have been an auction. But the blocks, I kid you not, were like, they finished at 1/2 inch, I think, or a little less than 1/2 inch. The quilt was not huge. I'd say it was probably shorter than like a twin bed sized quilt. So it was more of like a throw almost. Much bigger than a baby quilt, but some of these quilt sizes are, are crazy. I didn't really measure it, but I guess, let's see. The 2 tables that we were sitting around were maybe like 2 8-foot tables. So, it was, I don't know, maybe 5 feet long by 4 feet wide. I don't know. It was small. But anyway, I sat there and I looked at that thing and I took some pictures, and the woman that was sitting next to me, I was like, hey, could you put your finger in my picture so that I can have a picture of like how tiny this stuff is? So I was her hand photo model. I would like put my finger on stuff. Anyway, I could not wrap my head around like actually stitching this thing. It was insane. I have done a little piece, and it's been years ago. It was kind of long before the pandemic. It's probably been 10 years ago. And they were hexies that, I want to say they're 1/2 inch hexies, and that's measured, hexies, it's measured along the edge. So not like across the width, it's along the edge. So I think they were like 1/2 inch hexies. And, they finished it about that big, and the piece I made was about this big, like small doll sized. And I was fussy cutting, so I was using lots of little novelty fabrics and picking out these little tiny bits. So that kind of added time onto it to fussy cut, but nonetheless, the time it takes to just do all those tiny little stitches, just amazing. I look at some of these quilts sometimes, and we don't know who made them most of the time. We don't, unless they came through somebody's family, or have some type of, really solid provenance. Nobody ever hardly, labeled their quilts. So we often just have no idea who did this stuff. And it's just amazing. I so often wish we could time travel and meet these people and see, like, what were you thinking? So anyway, that was lots of fun. And hopefully, I'm pretty sure Bunny will give me permission to show you guys. I don't want to show it without asking her. One other fun thing, you guys remember, if you were here last Monday, we looked at Miniature Quilts magazine, which I think we looked at the very first issue of it. In my mom's magazine collection, she had 3 issues of it. And I remember saying, like, I don't know how long it published for. I really don't know anything about the magazine. Well, I heard from our friend, and I usually try not to mention her. We just kind of refer to her as our friend in Pennsylvania. But I will give her kudos and mention her name now, Barbara Garrett, because in issue 40, so it published for a while, issue 40, she had a 4-page spread. So, like, she had an article done about her because she makes these beautiful doll quilts. I've only seen pictures of them. I've never been able to see them in person. She actually did a doll quilt, like, trunk show lecture. I want to say it was Saturday, at the Virginia Quilt Museum. Unfortunately, I knew I wasn't going to be able to get down there just because of, my family travel obligations last week. And I think she's going to be maybe doing the program again up here closer to me, so I'll be able to see it. But anyway, long story short, she's made these beautiful quilts for a very long time, and she does programs about them. So she had an article, about herself and her quilts, and she had a pattern in the magazine. So I'm on the lookout for it. I've done kind of a cursory glance at eBay, and Jill said she was going to check the New England Quilt Museum's archives to see if they have it. But if you guys run across it in your travels, issue 40, I want to say it was like 1998, maybe, I think she said, if I'm remembering correctly. Because that first issue was 91. It was either 91 or 93. I can't remember. Early 90s. So anyway, if you guys see that issue out there, let me know, because of course I'd love a copy of it, and I'd love to show off Barb's quilts, and read about, whatever they reported about her. I just think that's so fun to see, in a magazine or a book, somebody and it's so fun. So many of these quilt books we read and we look at have either essays or have, people have, given permission to show pictures of their quilts or whatever, or they're featured in magazines and books. And it's so exciting because we know so many of these people now. I've met them through AQSG and just in my travels. So I feel like, it's kind of, to me, I think meeting some of my quilt heroes is far more exciting than, say, going to Hollywood and running into celebrities. I like quilt celebrities better than entertainment celebrities. So, all right. So today I wanted to look at a magazine, and I've actually taken pictures of it. So hopefully that'll be easier for us to look at, because my overhead camera, it's for the birds. I'm like, I've told you guys a bunch of times, I'm looking for one that has better focus, and I think that I probably am going to have to start like putting pennies in a bank, because they're not as affordable as just a webcam, which is what I had. So, but in the meantime, taking pictures works. So let me get this all set up. Now, to give you a little bit of backstory as I'm getting this set up, this magazine, it's one of a number of types of magazines that you'll find in the 20th century and early to mid 20th century. And I would say these were these magazines were big, maybe late 19th century into the mid 20th century. I would say after World War II, and particularly when I think that the interstate highway system came into the United States, which I guess was at the early 50s. I think that was like all under Eisenhower. People in rural communities, it's not like they were necessarily like cut off, like isolated, but it wasn't as easy to get things. Like, they had to take kind of long trips sometimes to go to town, to go to the big city to get, things. So they mail ordered stuff. But if you picture kind of the Midwest during this time period, you just got a lot of rural communities, farming communities. There's still lots of rural and farming communities out there today. They're more interconnected though, of course, by virtue of the internet, but also, just our modern conveniences of highways and, stores and suburbs and all that kind of stuff has sort of changed the landscape of rural areas. But anyway, these magazines in let me see. Make sure I have the right screen. Of course I don't. These magazines were aimed at kind of, I guess the best way to say it is, I guess it's sort of like two birds, one stone kind of situation. They were targeting both the farmer and his wife. And, I'm trying to think, there are a couple books out there that I think are kind of focused on the types of patterns and things that you might find in these magazines. I had heard about them. There's a magazine called Country Gentleman that, one of my friends had found. It was a quilt top I had, and she said, "Oh my gosh, you've got this particular quilt pattern. This is what it is. It's in Country Gentleman." And I'm like, Country Gentleman, what? But these magazines were kind of like a one-stop shop for, articles about farming and, just stuff that a farmer would need to know who's, running a big farm. And then, the wife, or the women in the family kind of keeping up with like culture is sort of the way I see these. You can see this one is June 1940. And to look at it, I think if I saw this on a newsstand, I would be like, what in the hell is this magazine? Because you see, like, it looks like something off of a woman's magazine on the front of it, but it says Farm Journal and Farmer's Wife. And then you've got Learning, Living, and Earning. And so this copy I have, it was in a pile of magazines that a friend had given me. And I've yet to have a chance to go all the way through them to see what's in there. But this kind of stuck out. And this is sort of the first version of one of these magazines I've had in my possession to be able to like examine very closely. So without further ado, let us look and see what is in this. You know, again, like I'm picturing myself seeing this on a newsstand and going like, huh? Now, to qualify, I do not think this was a thing that was necessarily on the newsstands. I don't think you would go past, like, you know, the newsstand in New York City and, yeah, give me a copy of the Farm Journal, sir. I don't think that was happening. I think this was like really a mail order type of magazine that you subscribed to it and you got it. You were not going out and buying it on a newsstand. So you immediately see what kind of things are in here. And I loved just noticing the prices on things. So international trucks, this is a thing my father-in-law is into. He actually, talk about a weird collection. He has I think they're two heavy trucks, just like this. Essentially like a 1940s heavy duty rig. And it's, you know, it's an interesting hobby. He bought these trucks to fix them up, but they're also not the kind of thing that you'd be driving, you know, like driving around town. It's kind of funny. But anyway, that was funny when I opened this and I saw that. And then look at this car, a Hudson, for $670. What? Oh my God, to buy a car for $670. Now it says for coupe, sedan illustrated, $763. Delivered in Detroit, including federal taxes, not including state and local taxes, if any. Low time payment terms. Price is subject to change without notice. But gosh, look at that. A whole car for under $1,000 and it's brand new. It isn't somebody's cousin's, uncle's, brother's beat up, like, yeah, won't get me to the corner store kind of thing. This is a new vehicle. So we've got the masthead stuff. So let's see. What is this? No, that's not what I thought it was. Okay, so this is the contents. Let's see. Earth is here so kind that just tickle her with a hoe and she laughs. Douglas Gerald. I love that. So you can see how this is split into the Farm Journal. This is the content the farmer's looking for. And then this is the stuff for his wife. General Motors. Lots of stuff about cars and equipment in here. But, I mean, I guess those are things that men are looking at, I suppose. Lots of stuff about appliances, too. Now, 1940, we're still in a world war, right? I mean, we had just gotten ourselves in there. Or did we even have ourselves in there yet? I'm needing my giant timeline that I'm always forgetting dates. I'm completely blanking on what date we entered World War II. I know it was Pearl Harbor, essentially, but so this is an interesting time in our world. So let's see. Frigidaire. Let's see, is there a price on the Frigidaire? I don't see a price here. Oh, wait. Let's see. Frigidaire presents many other outstanding values, including the lowest price 6 cubic foot Frigidaire ever offered, selling for little more than $100. $100. I think the crappy Frigidaire I have, I think I paid $700 or $800 for it, and it's like a no frills refrigerator. So how the times change. Another vehicle, $755 for a Dodge. Also something we never see in magazines today, not that there are that many print magazines anymore, but smoking. Like, you just don't see that in the magazines of today. And you know, it was funny. There's this Bud Light commercial, and I think it's Post Malone and this comedian, I can't remember his name, and he says something to the effect of, you can't drink, like you can't drink on air. And I was like, I knew that, but it had just not, like, I not really ever thought about it. And so they do the countdown. They're like, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then the commercial ends as they're getting ready to take a drink. But I think cigarette ads are also the same kind of thing. Like there are, like, I don't know, is it like the Federal Trade Commission, whatever, kind of limits what can be advertised. So I think it's always interesting to see these kind of ads, in older publications. Okay, so Robin says December 41. Okay, so this is right before, this is a little more than a year before we entered World War II, but I do know stuff was going on in Europe. So, even though we may not necessarily have troops over there, there was still that, like, the world was under strife. But this is what's going on in the U.S. That's kind of interesting to think about. This is, we're, on the precipice. Now look at this. This is funny. Now is the time to spray, kill rats, plant beans, buy a new hoe, keep the cream cool, make alfalfa silage, plant annual flowers, quit wet hand milking. I guess maybe they mean get a milking machine. I don't know. Eat strawberry shortcake. Yes, you got me on that one. Dip gladiolus bulbs for thrips. No idea. Buy Susie a nice graduation present. Have a picnic supper in the backyard. Clean out and ventilate the laying house for your hens. Put a bouquet of peonies on Grandpa's grave. Ask your wife where she put the screwdriver. I don't appreciate that one. Back in your toolkit, you never can find anything, man. Be sure dairy cows on pasture get plenty of salt. Sharpen the mower sickle. Need new guards, sections. Sprinkle super phosphate on manure piles every few days to kill flies. So those are the things we should be doing. It is June, y'all. Okay. So this Prince Albert. The tobacco that burns cooler. Okay. 86 degrees cooler. How? Like, what? Okay. Now, this one, I wasn't quite sure what was going on here. This is actually a Firestone tires, right? A tires ad, but then there's these chickens. And, oh, Robin, your dad used to smoke Prince Albert. Yeah, I know, Mike. I feel like there's somebody in my family that did too. And I'm just trying to think who either smoked a pipe or rolled their own cigarettes. But my grandmother had a collection of Prince Albert cans. But I don't quite understand what this. I guess they're trying to make a point here. The egg-laying champion hen versus just an ordinary old hen is to tires. The same way Firestone is to crappy tires, I guess. Yeah, these metaphors or whatever examples they're using are like really specific to the farm community. Now we're getting into some interesting things. So this is about, and it never occurred to me that politics are pretty important to farmers. I mean, even today, because, I mean, gosh, the funding coming out of the Great Depression, of course, there were farm subsidies. There still are. You've got farm credit. You've got the USDA farm loans, like all that kind of stuff that came out of this era. So farmers are definitely paying attention to what's happening in Washington and in their state government. So this says independents gain ground in a fight for non-political farm credit setup. Oh, you dear sweet people, non-political. Good luck with that, right? So this is talking about cash income of agriculture during the 7 years from 1933 to 1939. Well, that's really 6 years, I guess, but has been $52,167,000,000. This includes more than $3 billion of government payments. During the previous 7 years, 1926 to 1932, cash farm income amounted to $63,400,000,000. I mean, those are gigantic numbers, like the same kind of gigantic numbers. And of course, I don't know what it would be today. I assume it's in the hundreds of billions, but like how interesting to see numbers of that size back at this time when we're looking at $600 cars. So here's a whole spread of what's happening in Washington. And like I said, it makes total sense to me that, these farmers were very concerned about what politicians were up to and, what was going on. So at this point, let's see, FDR, I guess, is still in office. So Mr. Roosevelt's complete dominance of the July Democratic Convention, that should be FDR, right? And was it FDR? Was FDR the one that had more than one president, more than 2 terms? Again, I need that, like, how in school they would have that, like, strip with the dates? I need that. And it's probably got to go, like, all around my house. Like, I've got a millennia to put dates up. Let's see. I'm looking for other names that might be familiar to me, but, this is 1940. I don't know really any of these people. I'm sure if there's a name that's relevant to a particular state, I suspect you might recognize people, but yeah, let's see. So Jared says FDR served for more than 2 terms. He was elected to 4 terms as president, serving from 1933 until his death in 1945. Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, so that's right, 33. That's his first year in office. That's the year of the Sears, the Sears Century of Progress, the quilt show, and the Chicago World's Fair. The winning quilt from the Century of Progress quilt show was awarded to his wife. Why am I blanking on her name? It's a case of the Mondays, y'all. So yes, Flotus Roosevelt. Okay. And more. 32, 36, 40, and 44 were the years. Yeah. Okay. This was interesting. Applemen. I didn't know it was a thing. So this man, Paul Stark, Louisiana, Missouri, is the president of the National Apple Institute. So this is interesting. So I don't know, like, were we exporting apples to other places? I don't know. Apple exports. Yeah, it doesn't say where they're exporting to. Oh, this is interesting. Okay. Figures from 4,000 food retailers learn that independent grocers sell 65 pounds of apples for every 100 pounds of oranges, 47.5 pounds of grapefruit, and 37 pounds of bananas. Chain stores. Now, this is interesting how the chain stores are even less. I guess were people getting more of that? I don't know. This is interesting. So 26.5 pounds of apples for every 100 pounds of oranges. I'm wondering if, like, many people just had an apple tree, I just think of, like, growing up, my parents had an apple tree in their yard. My grandmother had an apple tree and a pear tree. I think we had a pear tree. I think my grandfather had planted, like, a plum tree too. Anyway, I don't remember my grandmother buying apples that often. She just used the knobby little apples that came off of her apple tree. So I'm wondering if that's why apples are, like, maybe not as big in the grocery store as, say, oranges, because oranges would have had to, unless you're living in Florida or California or wherever, oranges would have to be exported to other states. So for every 26.5 pounds of apples, for every 100 pounds of oranges, 41 pounds of grapefruit, and vegetable stores sell 85.5 pounds of apples for every 100 pounds of oranges and 48.5 pounds of grapefruit. What strange averages. Yeah, and I wonder what their totals were. Like how many, like, pounds of apples, like, across the board. No. All right. Oh, Chicago Milk. There was a 3-day strike. Oh my goodness. These are such interesting things because we just, I would say even if you are, in a rural farming community, this is not the way your life goes now. The kind of things that are being explored here, I don't think, Certainly you're concerned about feeding animals and crops and what's going on in Washington, but you're dealing with so much more innovation and technology that they were at this point. So fail-proof hay. AAA graduates from Purdue. Of course, Purdue, I think, has a major agricultural programs. Pennsylvania farmers hail pickup. Let's see. Ever since the days when Ben Franklin personally selected his buns at the bake shop, Pennsylvania housewives, rich and poor, have made it a practice to trudge off to the local farm markets to select the family's food. And this spring, in the chain stores at Johnstown, at the ambling brick markets in Lancaster and York, at supermarkets in Pittsburgh, Chunk, I have never heard of that, and Wilkes Barre, at Philadelphia's gloomy, white-tiled Reading Terminal Market, more housewives were poking at more chickens, buying more from farm stalls than any in any May since 1930. So, okay, we're talking about like the things are getting better from the Depression at this point. We're not in World War II yet. This is like a really, really interesting slice of history. All right, some more tires. G3 all-weathers. We're getting to farm life soon, I promise. Okay, so Chevys, $659. Oh, look at all of these kids in their overalls. These are cute. These are 6 boys. Oh my goodness, these are all from the same family. Mr. and Mrs. J.H. Campbell, Gallant, Alabama, have 6 boys who are 4-H club members and have another boy who plans to join when he is 10 years old. So I guess you have to be 10 to join 4-H. Oh my goodness. So Ray is the youngest. Wow. Okay, this one in the middle, Willie Mack, right? Let's see, Ray, Julius, Frank, Willie Mack. He is tall. He's a tall boy compared to the rest of his brothers. Oh my goodness. All right, this is about the cattle. 10 steps to sound farming. Okay. Soy. Talking about soybeans. Bearings and spark plugs. And it's interesting to me how there's women being used to advertise this stuff. I mean, I don't know what the purpose of that is. They're not, like, in this case, this is just a smiling woman. This isn't some, like, sexy, like, look at the car. It's not one of those kind of things. Like, I don't think this is a sex sells kind of thing, but I don't know. I mean, maybe it's about the wife having some influence. Like, look at this beautiful woman. Look at this beautiful farm wife. She wants her husband to buy Timken bearings. I think we should too. I don't know. All right. Roofing. Horses. I see this is a Ford ad. I think all of the cars have advertised now. Just looking for an Edsel. Oh, here's a cartoon. Pop, Mom wants to know where you put the will. Oh my gosh. Oh, that's terrible. So this is a rooster who's getting ready to be made into fried chicken, I guess. And the baby chicken is asking, where's the will? That's terrible. All right, so this is more Coleman lanterns. Okay, that's interesting. Spark plugs. Okay, now we're getting to Farmer's Wife. But first of all, what's this man? He's fed up with the farm. Tom thought chores were dull. Endless grind. Plowing, cultivating, harvesting. No kidding, Tom. Me too. Hot, back-breaking work. The farm was hopeless drudgery. Every morning, Tom would wake up cross and irritable. Then one day, Tom's mother served Post 40% bran flakes for breakfast. Crisp, tempting flakes. Marvelous, nut-like flavor. Really hit the spot. Oh, goodness. Look at that. You've got all this energy now for doing this back-breaking labor, and I bet you had some great poops too, Tom. Good for you. All right. The Farmer's Wife, June 1940. Now look at this lady. She is dressed in this beautiful gown. I'm like, is this like a wedding dress maybe, or a bridesmaid's dress? Would not expect to see that in the middle of a farm journal. And now you're getting right into like the things we see in women's magazines. So Cerdo would be for canning. It's pectin, I guess. Yeah, jelly making. Here's an article for getting married. June brides, right? Beth Cummings, I don't recognize her name as a famous writer or anything, but here is, I don't know if this is a serial or if this is just a kind of a one and done short story, but it's called Moonlight in the Apple Tree. And look at this bodice ripper here. There's some kind of tryst happening, I'm sure. Letters from farm women. I've got a Clorox ad. Fell's Naphtha. I don't think I've ever seen any kind of women's magazine from like the 1800s through mid-century that didn't have Fell's Naphtha advertised. I mean, I guess it was just like such a big deal with laundry. So let's see what. All right, let's read this one. Dear editor, we rarely take our youngsters to movies, fairs, or club meetings. Not long ago, our neighbor, who also has small children, said, I just can't enjoy myself anywhere without my youngsters when I know they want to come too. Then we began to wonder, are we selfish? Or are we, after all, just being fair to both ourselves and our children? Which is better, to come home with sleeping babies overstuffed with ice cream and pop, probably emotionally upset from too much drama at a show and feeling bedraggled ourselves, or to come home after an outing we have enjoyed, free of caring from the children for a brief while and find them sleeping peacefully in their own beds? Shouldn't a definite line be drawn between grown-ups and children entertainments? We think so, despite the fact that most farm folks seem to take their small children with them to everything they go to, day or night. Is this not a modern issue or what? You think about it and you're like, this restaurant is not intended for children. Why are you bringing a baby to a rated R movie? Right? We still have these kind of things. That is so funny. Here's the one. I become a lady. Dear editor, the best plan I have found for keeping up my morale under any condition is to take a bath before the evening meal, slip on a clean house coat, comb my hair as attractively as I can, and be a lady for the evening. I may have done every kind of hard and disagreeable work, including cleaning the hen house, but in the evening I become a different person. After cleaning up myself, I could feel a trifle glamorous. Wow. I mean, that's coming from a woman who has done hard work. Like, this is a woman, like, farm wives were not hanging out in the house doing fancy needlework. They did that during non-crop times. I mean, I can at least speak from this pretty knowledgeably because both sides of my family were from farming communities. Until like my grandparents were the ones that like sort of broke the tradition and, got jobs that were not in farming. So that's kind of interesting. Mountain mist. I immediately thought, are you talking about the quilt batting? No, apparently not. But this is interesting. Pine needles quilted on the heavy mist with quaintly traced embroidered seam make an antique spread for the mountain's bed of hunter green on a cloth of cream. And I, a collector of skies, would take this cloudland quilt for my spirit's sake. Well, all right. So, what is this about Fell's Naphtha? Metal, metal, metal. Goodness only knows, but this busy neighbor does it plenty. Oh, goodness only knows why. She criticizes you for this. She criticizes you for that. And glory, what a spot you're in if she looks at your little angel and finds her dressed in dingy tattletale gray. Don't get mad, just get wise. For no matter how hard you rub and rub, some soaps are so weak-kneed they simply can't budge all the dirt out of clothes. So hurry to the grocer's and switch to the soap that doesn't give dirt a chance. Switch to Fell's Naphtha, Golden Bar or Golden Chips. Well, That's interesting. I've bought some Fells naphtha and it is not golden, although it doesn't have the naphtha in it anymore. That is the dangerous chemical. Then parade the baby in style and prick up your ears whenever that meddler comes around. For Fells Naphtha's richer golden soap and gentle, loose dirtening naphtha. Gentle naphtha. It's like a turpentine chemical. Working as a well-balanced team, making Tattletale Gray give up in despair. They get clothes honestly clean all the way through, so sunny white and sweet. It is a thrill to have even a meddler notice, to hear her sing your praises to the skies. And all you had to do was buy some soap. Speaking of whitening things, though, I know I saw on, I want to say it was the 6 Know-It-Alls Show Us Your Quilts group on Facebook, which is a closed group, but you can request membership if you know you just have to request. Somebody, and I think it was Debbie Cooney, had she had a quilt that was really dingy. And the white areas were like yellowed. And so she did this experiment. She put the quilt out. She covered half of the quilt entirely. And then on the side that she was testing, each of the blocks, the pieced blocks that had, like actual fabric she did not want to bleach out, she placed paper over them. And so only thing that was really like available to the sun were the white blocks in between. And she showed a picture of the before and after. 30 minutes in the sun, y'all. And I was like, what? Now, I don't know. She said she treated it to sunlight. I don't know if she had done anything else. Like, I don't know if she had wet anything. Druid, you saw that? Yeah, I was just like, what? This is amazing. And I mean, Debbie lives near me. So she's here on the East Coast. So I can imagine, like, even more direct, like, blinding sun like they have in some places. I had commented, there was one of the people that lives in Arizona, and I was like, you could probably do some speed whitening in Arizona if we can get this kind of, results out of, 30 minutes of sun on the East Coast. Like, wow, that was crazy. So yeah, there's, who knows, maybe it's not really the Fells naphtha, but it's hanging your baby's clothes outside in the sunlight. Yeah, that was so interesting. So let's see. Learning, living, and earning. To educate, defined, crotchety Noah Webster. I guess this is just an article. Let's see. Robert W. Howard. So I guess this is kind of like an article or an op-ed piece, maybe. Linoleum. Linoleum is a necessary evil for your kitchen. Pabco floor coverings. So here we've got some rugs. Really, Grace? Is that all you paid for this lovely new rug? Yes, because it's Pabco's stainless sheen. I didn't know anything so beautiful could cost so little. It sets off the whole room. So funny. We don't fall for this kind of advertising these days, do we? So this is interesting. I'm curious to know what this is in the kitchen. Look how the new Pabco brightens up the kitchen, and such an easy floor to take care of. Once over with a mop and the stainless sheen is bright and clean. Is this like a rug? Yeah, I guess so. Oh my gosh, I would not have that in my kitchen, even if you could mop it. That's weird. You could mop a rug. Or, I don't know, maybe stainless sheen was like both rug and some other kind of flooring. I don't know. I don't think our friend Janet is here today, but she's having new floors put in her home, so we have to ask her. So Janet, did you get some Pabco floor coverings? Can you mop your carpets? Okay, this is interesting. Can you imagine somebody seeing this, right on the tail end of the Depression? $107,000 in cash and prizes. Electrolux refrigerators. Oh, interesting, Jared. Your grandmother referred to linoleum as a rug. I know that there's, there's all kinds of different, I've read all kinds of different stories about, floorings back in the day, and in particular in country, out in the country. And in some cases, and I'm trying to think, it might have been something that we had read here about, like, was it a Warminster or an Axminster or something like that? It's some type of big heavy rug. And they literally nailed it down to the floor because it covered the whole room. It was like wall to wall carpeting, but kind of not. And they would like pull it up and take it outside and beat it. And I also feel like there were cases where sometimes they kind of had like a wood floor, but they were actually kind of rug-like things that were linoleum. It wasn't like installed the way we would think of like in our kitchens today, but it was something that was, maybe not attached down. I'm not sure. Yeah, I think sometimes like you're saying, I mean, your grandmother was calling it a rug. I think sometimes like people use terminology that, by today it's kind of lost in translation. So $6,000 cash prizes, $3,500 cash prizes, and 360 refrigerators. So how do you enter this contest? Oh, you have to finish the sentence. I like Procter & Gamble soap because... I like it because you're offering $1,000 prizes, and I want one of them. Wow. Look at this. So in this refrigerator, this is the freezer, I think. This part right here. My husband and I, before we were married, we lived in the 7th floor well, no, it wasn't a walk up. It did have an elevator. 7th floor apartment that used to be, the building used to be a hotel in the 20s. And it still had the original refrigerators from when they converted from a hotel to apartments. And it sort of looked like this. The freezer was a little bit bigger and it kind of sat the other way. But if you think about the little tiny refrigerators that you'll see in hotel rooms sometimes, or those college dorm ones, and it's the freezer is just like this little shelf. Sometimes it has a little door on it. That's what the refrigerators were like. I mean, that was the transition, I think, from somebody bringing you a giant block of ice to put in the ice box to these electric things. But the freezer was still not like what we know today as a big old, put lots of stuff in it freezer. For comfortable feet. Busy farm women take thousands of steps in a single day. Indeed. What is this? Glamorous new skin. Lady Esther. I love it. You can, says Lady Esther, if you let my for-purpose face cream help remove those worn-out flakes of older skin. The menacing flakes of older skin. All right. Oh, here's a cartoon. Let's see. My city cousin gasped when she saw how easy it was. Surprise, surprise! I told you I'd drive out to visit you one of these days. If somebody came to my door, I'd be like, you get out of here. You didn't call first. Cousin Ellen, this is a surprise. Come right in, my dear. I've just finished my week's wash. What a job with your big family. Oh, it's not so bad. We farmers' wives enjoy all the latest improvements, too. I own a grand washer and use the new 1940 Rinso. See, there's my week's wash. Isn't it snowy and bright? And by the way, Rinso is real economical. Rinso is real economical because it does so much work. Also, the sunshine is helping, I believe. Snowy and bright. That's the sun. I'll remember your wash certainly looks beautiful. I see you buy Rinso in the giant size. That's smart. I'm going to order it too. Rinso's good for so many things. We wouldn't be without it. I use it for washing out milk cans, strainers, and separators. And Martha uses it for the week's wash, dishes, and all cleaning. Okay, so Rinso is like the whatever, the comment, the Clorox, I guess it's like a Clorox, I guess. If he's using it for milk cans, I mean, that's something that requires sort of sanitizing. And she's not talking about Tide. This is like, I think somebody with something that's stronger. Interesting. Oh, up in Polly's room. Let's see. June weddings have started. The girls up in Polly's room thinking about hope chests. There's an old tradition, that says you can't officially start a hope chest until you have a pair of salt and pepper shakers. Interesting. So your first investment will be in a pair of shakers. From then on, you can add what you like. Now, aren't salt and pepper shakers the kind of thing that people buy you for a wedding present? I don't know. Did people not do wedding presents like that back then? That might be the case. You may have had to kind of set up your hope chest, I guess, to furnish your new home. Maybe, I guess people didn't do, well, I'm sure coming out of the Depression, people weren't giving lavish gifts. Silverwares, bath towels, luncheon sets, glass towels. I guess those are like small towels for drying things. Are things you'll never have enough of. You can collect them to your heart's content. The ideal linen lists include something like 5 sheets to each bed, 4 pillowcases for each pillow, a dozen face towels and 3 bath towels, and 4 washcloths for each person. That's a lot. 6 glass towels, 6 dish towels. So you see, you better get started. Interesting. So I guess this is all wedding questions. So who should go down a theater aisle? Oh, no, it's not. Who should go down a theater aisle first, and who should go first into the seats? Oh, that's interesting. How do you get your date to leave when it's time to leave? It embarrasses me to have my parents announce that it's bedtime. Beat your parents to it. You know what deadline they have set, and so make it a point to have your date well on his way out about 5 minutes before then. Don't hesitate to tell him what time curfew rings at your house. He'll appreciate knowing about it. I bet he appreciates it. If you find that hard to do, then have another couple in and tell the other girl privately what time they should leave, and she can make the suggestion when the time comes. You know what? That is all so very convoluted. I would be like, dude, get out. Oh my goodness. What should you say when somebody compliments you on your dress or something else? Well, you should say thank you. Accepting compliments graciously is an art. Whatever you do, don't deny the compliment. Even if it is an old dress, or even if you don't like it, accept the nice words with a smile and a pleasant thank you. I'm glad you like it. Thank you. It was nice of you to say. That's funny. Okay. Oil burning stoves. Oil ranges. My favorite pickles and preserves. Let's see. Bread and butter pickles. Peach preserves. Oh, yummy. Oh, almonds, huh? Okay. Cherry sunshine. So it's just corn syrup and cherries. Sweet sour chunk pickles. I guess it's kind of like a relish. Onion slices, celery stalks. Oh, these are interesting. I did see this the other day. Like, what is this all about? What is this Oh, okay. This is Grandpa's glasses, I guess, and his pocket watch. He's amusing the child. But then there's strained mixed greens. Ugh. And then this one down here was apple, fig, and date dessert. I had no idea that Heinz made baby food like that. I had no idea. More refrigerators. I mean, this is like this magazine is hardcore, taking some ads for refrigerators and cars. And I mean, I guess again, you think about it. I mean, this time period predates all of us, but you know, when you think about the Depression and you know, we're on the precipice within 10 years or so of the baby boom. You know, it's just interesting. Like I said, it's this little slice of time in the U.S. history. Oh, look, when you have ice in your refrigerator, look at what you get. Economy, proper moisture, clean washed air, constant cold, and pure ice cubes. Oh, all the things that I am always after. To the wife of a man with a mother who could cook. Okay. Rum for baking powder. I think I have a can of this right now in my cabinet because they still make it. New for summer wear. These are very cute little dresses. Got a little sleeveless number there. Very cute. Oh, this is interesting.
Why not dress him like a girl and be done with it? Father-in-law, now look, I know you wanted a girl, but you got a boy. Come to your senses and treat him like one. Oh dear. Mary, who says I'm treating him like anything else? Father-in-law, don't make me laugh. You've got enough special gadgets for that child to open a drugstore. Well, how is that treating him like a girl and not... Why, of course I use special things. Name me a mother who doesn't. I still call it nonsense. Look, my doctor says a baby system is the most delicate thing on earth. Everything a baby gets should be made specially for him, even a special laxative. Oh, that's what this is about. Father-in-law, a special laxative too? Who has this kind of conversation with their father-in-law? It's logical, isn't it? You would dream of giving an infant the same foods you eat, then why give him a grown-up's laxative? Father-in-law, that sounds reasonable. Certainly, that's why I use Fletcher's Castoria. It's made only for children. Hasn't a single adult drug, so it's mild enough for the tiniest system. You couldn't ask for a safer laxative. It'll warm your heart to see him go for the wonderful taste of Fletcher's Castoria. Okay, I still don't understand why giving a child castor oil essentially is treating him like a girl or something. Oh my goodness. All right. Apparently, oh, this was another one I saw. Let's see. So, can your child breathe right? That one's scary. I don't even want to know what that's about, because it's like, is it allergies? Is it asthma? I don't know. Crumbly cake because you weren't using the right baking powder. But here, this. Doggone those fleas. Won't someone please tell my missus about Lysol? Oh my gosh. They're talking about disinfecting your dog with Lysol? Hospitals and homemakers are used to fighting germs with Lysol. Lysol cleans, disinfects, and deodorizes. They still say that today. Do you know that its regular use also helps discourage fleas and ants? Add Lysol to the scrub pail when you clean floors, woodwork, windows, walls, tiling, linoleum. Okay, these are okay uses. This is especially important in dark or damp places, cellar, attic, pantry, under stair cupboards. Use Lysol when you clean the sink, drain boards, toilet, bathtub, washing machine, garbage pail. Lysol deodorizes as it cleans. Also something they say today. And when you wash the dog, use Lysol in the water. A half a tablespoon to each gallon of water. Avoid getting in dog's eyes. Well, yeah. Helps clean his coat and helps keep his coat clean and glossy, and deodorizes too. Disinfect your pet's dishes, bedding, kennel, and run with Lysol. Wow. How many dogs were poisoned by Lysol in their bathwater? It's still a good thing to use to keep. Yes, I believe that. I mean, I think all of like the cleaning your floors and windows and stuff. I mean, that honestly, during COVID, I was spraying Lysol on any surface. But it's one of those things I think they do tell you. The pine scent. Yes. I haven't bought pine scent Lysol in a very long time though. That totally makes sense to me. But, you know, like Lysol, at least today, I don't know what the rules were back then, you know, like the labeling stuff. But I mean, today they've got the poison control. So like, you're not supposed to get that near your mucous membranes, your, you know, pets, all that stuff. It's interesting how, you know, chemicals were a little more loosey-goosey back then. All right, so Moonlight and the Apple Tree. I just love all of these. Get your body out of the dumps. All of these ads. All right, what's this one? Oh, for land's sakes, I knew I forgot something. I didn't lay an egg today. That's, oh, for land's sakes. That sounds like my grandmother. Here's some more. Let's see, Jean. I'm wondering if, who is she? Is this one of the... well, I guess Jean is talking about Postum. Postum, made as you make coffee. An instant Postum, made instantly in the cup. I think I remember my mom talking about her grandmother drinking Postum. And I don't, is it made from, I think it's made from grains. I think it's, I don't think it's chicory, but I think it's some type of grains that have been like roasted, like similarly to coffee. And I want to say Postum was something that kind of came out of the Depression, like when people couldn't afford to get things like coffee. This was a cheaper alternative, if I'm remembering correctly. All right, maca yeast. Brush away gray hair. Wheat bran, wheat and molasses. Okay, yeah, I knew it was some kind of gross combination of stuff that. Wheat water, old wheat water. So this issue didn't really have any needlework stuff in it per se. There's a whole thing about turkeys on raising poultry. But I do know that these magazines definitely had at times. Oh, here's a nice racist ad. Santa flush radiators. Okay. More tires. Are you going to advertise the tires in the ladies section? Oh, now we're Remington rifles, important on the farm. This stuff is interesting. Let's see. Silage cutter, hay, garden tractors, cocoa cooler. It's a type of hat. Oh, here's another one. Another culturally insensitive. Let's see. What is this cartoon? Give me one that's pre-shrunk. He got caught in a shower and now he can't get his hind legs down. Okay, I'm not. So, oh, it's a dog sweater. Okay, dog sweaters. Okay, so the dog was wearing a sweater, got in the shower, or maybe it was the rain. When she says to shower, maybe it's the rain. And now he can't get his hind legs down. That's pretty funny. All right, so these are all the classified ads. I'm not going to zoom in on any of these, but I mean, it's just the same stuff we're used to today, just trying to get you to spend your money on stuff. Female complaints. Chicks. Lots of chicks to be had. I do know at one time you could, lots of chicks. You could get chicks delivered in the mail. You could still get bees delivered in the mail if you're a beekeeper. You can ship these things through the U.S. Postal Service. They're kind of like a special delivery, and like you have to, like, I don't know, your post office has to know about it, and they come in some kind of crate and all this crazy stuff. I had a friend who kept bees for a while, and she kind of explained this whole process. I was like, oh my God, that sounds like something out of like 1820. All right. Oh, so you can still get some chicks in the mail. So around here, lots of people actually have chickens around me, because even though I'm kind of on the edge of suburbia, it's still like we're still zoned rural, so people can have like goats and chickens and stuff. And we have a Tractor Supply company, so you just go down to the Tractor Supply and get your chicks and all your stuff. All right, what does this say? All right, but you won't get away with it when the head nurse gets back from her vacation. Oh. All right, so the guy in all of the casts is feeding the nurse. Let's see. We're not one-timers or two-termers. We elect Wolverines for life. Wolverine shell horsehide. Okay. All right, and there's the end. There's the back of it. Lucky Strike cigarettes. Sunshine mellows, heat purifies. And cooks your lungs and gives you lung cancer. Have you tried a Lucky lately? Yeah. Are you smoking more today? The more you smoke, the more you need the throat protection of It's Toasted. Oh my gosh. My goodness. All right. So, I will look for some more of these. I would really love to find some of the issues that have actual needlework stuff in them. But, you know, I like, what an odd thing, you know, and I like I'm saying, I mean, of the time, this was pretty common. I think there was a number of these magazines, these publications, but I mean, can you imagine this today? Like a magazine that comes and it's half like, I don't know, Golf Digest, and then the other half is like Women's World or Good Housekeeping. Like, it's just such an odd thing, you know? It's just not like part of our culture today to have this kind of thing. So anyway, I hope you learned something today. All right, so what we shall do next is get back to our reading. Now, as you guys know, oh gosh, what screen did I put it on? Here it is. Now, as you guys know, we started reading the new book the other day, and I think it's got some promise. So the book is called The Secret of the Crazy Quilt by Florence Hightower. And we read the first chapter, and so Jerusha and her brother Freddie were traveling by train in the 1920s to their aunt's house. Their grandmother had died, or no, sorry, that was their grandparents' house. Their aunt was there, who I don't think it was that they didn't like her. She just wasn't a kid person, maybe. Their grandmother, their beloved grandmother, had already died, and they were sad that she wouldn't be there. But we also got introduced to the fact that where they were going was in Massachusetts, probably on the Cape somewhere, like around, on the water. And there was a cove there, and one of their ancestors had been a shipbuilder. So that's where we're at. This is the second chapter. So again, we are reading. Let me make sure I have the details here. Get this right. Another question is, what folder is this in? Well, I think it's 1971. I think it's 71 or 72. I think it's probably in the title of this this live stream. Yeah, there's... Well, hopefully I don't shut this screen because now I'm not sure what folder this is in. All right. So let's go. This is chapter 2. Post Factum Introduction, November 1944. So I think it kind of was already set up for us that this story is going to take place kind of in the 20s, in the 40s, but also kind of like this whole history because of this mystery. And the Crazy Quilt has been mentioned. Grandmother had brought it out, and it was apparently grandmother had some memories about it that were sort of troublesome, and Jerusha was kind of like, oh, this quilt makes me feel weird. So let's go. Post Factum Introduction, November 1944. It is like Jerusha to plunge into her narrative as if she were plunging into the cove for a swim. I wish I had half her imagination and half her ability to bring memory to life in words. I am a pedestrian person with an orderly mind. I cannot launch myself on an undertaking as complicated as the joint writing of a memoir without first taking thought and planning ahead. Neither can I let Jerusha go off, as my high school students say, half-cocked. Before we proceed any further with our reminiscing, I am setting down here for my own guidance and the enlightenment of any readers we may have. Number 1, who Jerusha and I are. Number 2, why and in what circumstances we are writing a reminiscence of the summer of 1926. Number 3, the method we propose to use. And number 4, the result we hope to achieve. Jerusha, who is as good-natured as she is impulsive, is not annoyed with me for interrupting her story. On the contrary... Oh dear. Uh-oh. It's not going to the next page. I think I left this open too long. Let's see. All right, guys, hold on a second. I gotta open the... Let's see. I can open its source. Whoops. I wonder if this got... I think my computer updated and... Sorry, guys. I'm usually a little more prepared than this. Okay, maybe it's down here. see. Well, talk amongst yourselves. Oh my goodness, where did I put this folder? It is not coming up now. I'm usually not this bad about misplacing folders and things. I can switch over to my phone if I have to, but okay. Yeah, this is one of those moments when I think I need the hold music. Let's see. Oh, this is strange. It's not coming up at all. Did I save it to the computer? Well, guys, I might have to put you on hold and go find my phone because it's like the file got deleted out of here. I'm not finding it at all. This is the strangest thing. Let's see, I'm looking through here. Well, one moment, hold please. I'm gonna have to put you on. I'm gonna have to put you on hold. All right, I'll be right back. Bear with me. Okay, well, thank goodness I did not delete this off my phone, and I promised to have this fixed by the next time, but let me find. Okay, here we go. All right, back to it. So she says that Jerusha so Jerusha is not annoyed with her interrupting the story. And by the way, this chapter is also called Edith's narrative. Edith is her aunt. So, on the contrary, she says she is grateful to me for getting our project organized. I will proceed then with my delayed introduction. First, I must explain who I am. My name is Edith Fonts.
Faunce is spelled Faunce. That is an interesting name I've never heard before. My name is Edith Faunce. I am middle-aged and single. I have lived all my life in this house on Haskell Hill in the town of Sewell, Massachusetts, and I intend to die in it. Wow. My maternal grandfather, Captain Gamaliel Haskell, built the house with the stable and outbuildings in 1870 and named it the Haven. At that time, grandfather was still a rich man. He spared no expense. The Haven was exactly as he wanted it and the showplace of Sewell. The house has only 2 stories, like the cottage in which grandfather grew up, but it has a mansard roof and a cupola. So does the stable. So do the hen house and the tool shed. Each of the posts in the fence, which separates the formal yard from the road, has its own cupola, just like the one in the house, only smaller. Atop the cupolas, on the house and barn, and on each of the 4 corners of their mansards, and on the gable end of the shed, there are iron lightning rods embellished with scrollwork and copper balls. The hen house, tool shed, and naturally the fence posts were considered too humble for lightning rods as either decoration or protection. The formal yard within the fence is bisected by a gravel drive which passes the side door of the house, the one we always use, and continues back to the stable. This is a grand house. I mean, she says, oh, it's only 2 stories, but this is a fancy property. The yard directly in front of the house is bisected by a front walk made of marble slabs. In grandfather's time, flower beds, changed every season but always red, white, and blue, bordered the walk. The flower beds have gone to grass long before I can remember, and now many of the marble slabs are sunken and grown over. We never open the front door except during spring cleaning or to make a draft through the house in summer. The chief feature of the side yard is the flagpole, topped by a clipper ship for a weather vane. So, of course, we're in big shipping territory in Massachusetts. And circled at the base by another flower bed, which originally spelled out Haven in red and white begonias and blue vinca, but which I now plant each year in red, white, and blue petunias. If you have a garden large enough to spell out the name of your house, maybe you don't have a lot of money at this point. Your old money has changed a bit, but you still live in a nice place. There are no large trees in the yard. Grandfather liked to be able to look up at the stars as he had been accustomed to do when he was at sea. An arbor vitae, I can't remember how we figured out how to pronounce that. An arbor vitae hedge, grown to an untidy thicket, protects the house from the east wind of the sea, and a big old wisteria vine covers the side porch and shields us from the summer sun. The house, the outbuildings, the fence post, and all the cupolas have always been painted apple green. I'm trying to picture what these fence posts look like. The trim around the doors and windows is white, and the doors and shutters are dark green. My grandfather chose these colors, and I have seen no reason to change them. I know that according to modern notions, the Haven is neither beautiful nor even very comfortable. Before the war, summer people used to drive up here just to make fun of it. Well, they parked their cars right in front where I could hear them laughing. Father was never able to say boo to a sheep, and I tried to keep calm and ignore them, but sometimes they were just too aggravating. I would march out and tell them that they were parked on my private road, which went on to the 2 Cornish cottages, and nowhere else, and unless they came to see me or Mrs. Cornish or whoever the tenants of her second cottage were, they were trespassing. They usually looked sheepish and pretended they were lost. Now, I'm picturing that this place being like a fancy house that's kind of gone to seed, but like who drives up to old houses and makes fun of them? I don't know. That's just weird to me. Friends tell me that in a few more years, taste in architecture will change again and my house will be back in style and much admired. They mean well, but neither reassure nor comfort me. On the contrary, I feel as if they were telling me that I am out of style, that if I will just wait around a little longer, I may be presentable again.
The Haven is much more than a house to me. It is my inheritance from my forebears, and all my life it has lived in me just as much as I have lived in it. We we have been inseparable for so long that at this late date I could not survive a separation. We must go on together until I die, and after my death the Haven will still go on, not entirely without me. I have left it in my will jointly to Jerusha Spencer, née Faunce, and Frederick Faunce, the children of my deceased brother and sister-in-law, Haskell and Rose Faunce. I know that Jerusha and Freddie will keep the Haven in the family for my sake. They know that I consider the Haven to be the only part of me that is is worthy to outlive me. I have no illusions about the importance of my teaching career. No wonder that I cannot stand to leave the Haven I cannot stand to have the Haven laughed at, and that I am not grateful when I am told to make the best of it, as if it were a liability instead of my most valuable possession. The war, for all its misery, has rid me of nosy summer people and tactless friends. No one can get even gas to driveway up here. Strangely enough, the war has brought me an unexpected and undeserved happiness. My niece Jerusha and her little boys are staying here at my invitation until they can go back to London. Jerusha has always been impulsive, and it was just like her to go off and marry an Englishman. Not that I have anything against William Spencer. He is a doctor, and I can tell that Jerusha loves him. I know he is a considerate and thoughtful young man, for in addition to writing to Jerusha, he writes me long and interesting letters about the army hospital in North Africa where he is stationed. I have to laugh at myself now when I remember how I worried that Jerusha and the children might upset father and break the furniture and interfere with my schedule at school. The boys are darlings, bright as buttons, but gentle and loving. They remind me of Freddie when he was their age. Having Jerusha here again has been such a joy to me. I guess I was lonely before she came, though. Heavens knows I had father and friends, not all of them tactless, and the whole of Sewell High School. I've been principal as well as Latin and history teacher for the past 3 years to keep me busy. I can talk to Jerusha, though, as I can to no one else, about my feelings and about our family and the things that happened here long ago. She shares my love for Freddie, and she is the only person who understands about Braun Zebra. I noticed this name as I was taking the screenshots. I noticed this name throughout the book, this Braun Zebra. And I think Jerusha mentioned Braun in the first chapter, so I'm interested to find out more about him. How I wish Haskell and Rose might have lived to see Freddie now and share our pride in him. Although he is still in his 20s, he is a lieutenant in the Navy, stationed in the Pacific. He can't tell us where. Braun Zebra is no relative of ours, but once he was a very close friend. When supper is over, the children asleep, the war news listened to and turned off, and father reassured and settled for the night, Jerusha and I draw close to the fire in the fireplace and talk. The war news, especially in the early days of Jerusha's visit, was not so reassuring as we tried to make father believe, and it was partly to forget our anxiety for Freddie and William that Jerusha and I talked about the past. Soon the past, our past, inherited from shared ancestors and remembered from shared experience, took hold of us both and became the focus of our wartime life together. In making repairs and improvements on the Haven, or replacing its furnishings, I have taken pains to alter it as little as possible, inside as well as out. In the firelight, our parlor now, in 1944, looks much as it did in 1870 or 1912 or 1926. The lowered shades, we have to do a brownout all along the coast, and the stillness outside sharpen the feeling Jerusha and I both have that the parlor has become detached from time, that here the past and the present are happening all at once, and that there is no future. We exchange memories and impressions of events long past and people long dead, as if the events were happening around us and the people were with us. We tell each other stories we have heard from parents, grandparents, and old-timers, as if we were those personages and had been there ourselves. The more we talk, the more we remember. And the more we remember, the more we are drawn into and caught up by the summer of 1926. What a summer it was. We were not yet recovered from Mother's death. And then in June, we found the Crazy Quilt. It was a freak, a monster. Jerusha and Freddie were frightened. I picture I have a couple of Crazy Quilts in my collection, and I'm like, even if they're ugly, I can't think of them as being freakish or monstrous, but. So it was a freak, a monster. Jerusha and Freddie were frightened. I was appalled, but Braun was intrigued by the anomaly. He studied it, and in September, he found the key and deciphered the meaning. It was not a meaning we were happy to know. It did explain some things that had puzzled us, but the explanation was so unpalatable that Jerusha and I, the only ones besides Braun who knew it, agreed never to speak of it. Heaven knows how Braun felt about his discovery, or whether he has talked about it. His behavior during the summer was a greater anomaly than the Crazy Quilt, and he never explained himself. So much happened in those few months. Events pile up in our memories until the Crazy Quilt is buried in the jumble. Jerusha and I have talked and talked, trying to make sense of it all. It is as vivid to us now as when it was going on, and as baffling. It is chiefly Braun, and I might as well admit it, who fascinates and baffles us. Last night when we were talking, one of the children cried out upstairs. Jerusha's a hard name to say, just like a rural. Jerusha jumped to her feet, then sat down and rested her head in her hands. When a moment later she got up again, she said, "I was lying in the sun on the forward deck of Irene when Freddie and Braun, lying on the forward deck of Irene with Freddie and Braun." Irene, if I remember correctly, is Braun's boat, right? "We were drinking sarsaparilla and talking about our futures, coming back from so far to now, and the children made me dizzy. Jerusha has always been able to dive head on into imaginary situations and swim around in them like a fish. She is as much at home in a world of fancy as in the real world. I have very little imagination, but I understood what she meant. I, too, had been absorbed in my own memories of the summer of 1926. While she was upstairs, Jerusha had one of her impulses. 'Why not,' she cried as she came down, 'put in writing everything we remember about that summer?' Braun," she went on, "studied the Crazy Quilt until he found the pattern in it. So must we study the events of that summer?" Jerusha admitted that neither one of us had the quickness of mind and powers of concentration that Braun had, and for that very reason we must write everything down. Writing about what had happened would demand more exactness and consequently more concentration than talking about it. If we wrote down our memories, leaving nothing out, not even the disagreeable business of the quilt, and not even the disagreeable business of the quilt, and if we disciplined ourselves to be honest at all costs and spare ourselves nothing, we might, just as Braun had, discover connections and interpretations that had never occurred to us before. We would be using Braun's method on Braun. Jerusha's impulse intrigued me. We discussed it until well past our usual bedtime. We agreed that I would be responsible for writing the events which led up to the summer, since I had experienced them. From there on, we were on our own. Each of us would describe, in the fullest possible detail, the summer as we remembered it. When we had finished, we would edit our manuscript and cut out repetitions. We cannot be sure what we will come out with. It may be even more confusing and incoherent than our talks. However, we hope a pattern will emerge. If we finish our reminiscence, Freddie and Jerusha's boys, when they were older, will want to read it, and they should. I believe it is best for Father to know nothing about it. At this late date, there is no need to distress him, and the story of that Crazy Quilt. I burned it years ago. Oh my God, she burned a quilt. Eee! Neither would it make him happy to learn some other things that have been kept from him. Oh my goodness. Okay, so we've got a horrible, terrible abomination of a Crazy Quilt that has been burned, and we've got some kind of crazy mystery. And this Braun character who seemed so important, apparently not around anymore. Okay, so background. At 2:30 in the afternoon on March 5th, 1926, I was hearing my Virgil class recite at the girls' Latin school in Boston when a message came from the office that I had a long-distance call. It was Dick Davis in Sewell. Mother had had a stroke. Dick told me not to worry. He would stay with her and Father until I could get home. Mother was as comfortable as could be expected, and there was not much to do for her except get her to a hospital, and for that he needed my permission. Father didn't seem to understand. I said I could just catch the 3:58 out of South Station to Houghton Junction, and from there I'd get the 5:32 for Sewell. I asked Dick to have someone meet me at Sewell at 6:15. The principal was most kind. She took over my class and let me use her private phone to telephone Braun in Cambridge. Luckily, Braun was in his room. He said he would meet me on the platform at South Station. Braun hadn't brought any bag with him, but he had brought some books, and as soon as we greeted each other and settled ourselves in the non-smoking coach, he opened one of them. It was in Russian, and he began to read. Braun at that time was a graduate student at Harvard working in Slavic languages and literature. He often invited me to Cambridge to listen to lectures he thought were especially interesting, and afterward, over lunch or tea or supper, he would talk excitedly about the books he was reading or the paper he was writing. He was so enthusiastic that I loved listening to him, even when I didn't understand what he was talking about. In the midst of his talk, he would suddenly declare that I must do something impossible for me, such as starting Russian immediately. Braun would lend me a book, so that we could read Pushkin together, and I could have the same wonderful feeling Braun had for poetry. Can you imagine trying to learn Russian as an adult? I feel like people back in the day had more room in their brain for things like that. Just the summer before, he had been studying German to pass a language requirement. He had been all excited about some modern German writers and delivered passionate lectures to me in German, too. He wanted me to study German with him so we could read together. He said German was an easy language. Is it an easy language, Druid? I would pick it up in no time. I did study with him, and I think he thought the reason I didn't pick up German as quickly as he had expected was because I didn't really care. He could never understand that I just wasn't as clever as he was and wasn't cut out to be a scholar. At least I was clever enough to realize it. I had got an MA in classics, so I could teach at a first-rate high school. I enjoyed my teaching, and I enjoyed being able to use some of my salary for keeping up the haven as it was meant to be. Father was the congregational minister in Sewell. His salary was tiny, and both his head and his heart were soft as butter. Well, she's certainly nice to her father. He was an easy touch for any no-account down on his luck. The fellow didn't even have to be a Congregationalist. My daydreams were not about reading Pushkin in Russian. They were about lifting myself and my parents out of our genteel poverty to the wealth and importance that our family had once enjoyed. I wanted us to be able to hold our heads as high as anyone in Sewell, and that included the rich summer people. When I married, I intended to be very particular. None of my beaux, though they were nice enough and very devoted, were at all what I had in mind. Not even Dick, though he was a good doctor and more devoted than anyone, came up to my idea of scratch. Suddenly, full of guilt, I remembered how, for my sake, Dick was staying with Mother and Father now. I felt a surge of pity for Father, so good and so helpless, and for my dear mother, who had always looked after him, and the whole parish, too. What would become of them? Would Mother be an invalid? What if she died? Impossible. I couldn't imagine life without her. I tried to remember what Dick had said about her. He had been vague. Was it so as not to alarm me? I felt I would go crazy just sitting while the train bumbled along. I wish I had brought a book, like Braun, but I never would have been able to lose myself in a book at a time like this. That was another of the gifts Braun had, which I had not. I looked over at him. He wasn't reading at all. He was staring at the book while tears poured down his cheeks and splattered on the open page. I patted his shoulder and reached my handkerchief out of my bag and handed it to him. Don't cry, dear. You'll wear yourself out before we get there, and we won't be able to help Mother and Father as we should. Braun took the handkerchief, blew his nose, then sobbed aloud. Please, Braun, I said, try to control yourself. I can't. I don't want to, Braun sobbed again. You're being childish. I patted his hand. Mother needs sensible help, not tears. I love her. She has been a second mother to me, returned Braun, in what seemed to me an unnecessarily loud voice, then choked and sobbed again. Hush, Braun. I squeezed his hand. Braun pulled his hand away. How can you sit there dry-eyed? His voice grew louder than ever. Don't you Yankees have any feelings? Hush, people are listening. Let them, returned Braun. He blew his nose again. Don't make a scene, Braun. Do you love your mother? What a stupid question, and a rude one, too. I was getting angry. You don't, retorted Braun. If you did, you wouldn't care if a lot of strangers heard you crying. I am a grown woman. I try to think how I can help my mother when she needs help. I don't shout and bawl like a spoiled baby. How dare you say I don't love my own mother? She's my mother, not yours. You don't even know anything about how I feel. I realized my voice was rising, and that I, too, was on the verge of tears. We hadn't had a fight like this in years. I stopped myself, but I couldn't help adding quietly, but with some annoyance. You're different. You don't understand us, so please be quiet. Braun gave his nose a final indignant blow, wiped his eyes, and pocketed my handkerchief. You're ashamed of me, not only now here in the train, but always. His blue eyes were still moist and a little pink around the edges, but his jaw was set in a way I had never noticed before. Please, Braun, I don't want to talk. Bah, said Braun. You gave yourself away that you don't understand us. Why can't you say it out, honestly, that I'm Braun Zebra, the poor immigrant boy, and I have no right to cry for the mother of Miss Faunce of Sewell, for though she is poor as a church mouse, she is beautiful and well-born and a snob. Your mother is never like that. She sees people as they are in themselves and accepts them. She never cared who I was. She just loved me, and I have loved her almost as much as my own mother. Braun screened his eyes with the back of his hand. Suddenly, he changed his voice to an affected simper. How humiliating for you, Miss Faunce. Your protege, he owes everything to you and your family, and he really has done much better than anyone expected, considering his background. Forgets his place, acts as if he were your equal, and in a public conveyance, too. It just goes to show you can't make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. I had never been spoken to or so hurt in my life. I stared at Braun with my mouth open. Then I felt tears coming and turned quickly away to stare out the window and try to hold them back. I'd have died rather than let Braun see me cry. After a long time, Braun said, I'm sorry. I kept my voice steady long enough to say, you should be. Fortunately, the train was pulling into Houghton Junction. We had to shove our way out of the coach, dash across the tracks, and find seats on the Sewell local. When we were settled, I was able to say quite steadily, if you really think I am the way you just described me, then as soon as this crisis with Mother is over, we will stop having anything to do with each other. It must be very painful for you to be civil to me, let alone friendly. Braun grabbed both my hands and turned me sideways to face him. His eyes were full of tears, but he didn't sob or shout. Forgive me, he said. Don't leave me. You mean so much to me, and I can't tell you about it. When I try, I say it all wrong. I wanted to tell him how hurt I was and how foolish he was to think I ever thought of him as my inferior. And yet, perhaps I knew what he meant. Perhaps I did hold him off in a way, as if he were an outsider, and exclude him from what was most important to me. I forgive you, I said, but I never intended. I couldn't go on. In my confusion and embarrassment, I couldn't tell him anything. He bent to kiss my hands. I noticed that his hair was very soft and blonde, as it had been when he was a little boy. I remember how I had touched it in wonder at its softness and brightness the first time I ever saw him long ago. Braun let go of my hands, straightened, and turned away. Taking up that first memory of Braun, I dwelt on it and enlarged it to include the story of how Braun Zebra came to Sewell. It helped me, while we rode on, to forget my fears for Mother and the stiffness which, even though we had made up, still felt between Braun and me. The zebras came to Sewell in 1907 on the same train on which Braun and I sat so uneasily together now. It was June when they came. Braun always said that his first memory of Sewell was the pink ramblers in bloom on the trellis behind the station platform, and shoving away one of the blossoms, although he really wanted it, when Mrs. Walker held it out to him. Sewell Station, Mr. Walker, the conductor, called end of the line. All the passengers got off except the zebras. They sat tight. Mr. Zebra gripping the 2 suitcases, Mrs. Zebra hugging Braun and the bundle. Mr. Walker was worried about them. When he had punched the zebras' tickets after they had come aboard at Houghton Junction, he had tried to ask them where they were planning to stay in Sewell. If anyone, he thought, as foreign-looking as the zebras, was coming to Sewell to visit or settle, the news would have been all over town. He suspected that they had got on the wrong train. Mr. Zebra answered his questions with such a flood of gibberish and waving of arms that Mr. Walker retreated in confusion. Now in Sewell, he was going to have to tackle Mr. Zebra again and persuade him somehow to leave the coach so that he could lock up for the night. The 6:15 always slept at Sewell and departed the next morning at 7:02. Mr. Walker knew now that with Mr. Zebra, talk was useless. He pointed out the other passengers who were either walking away from the station or being driven off in buggies and carryalls. They were the only 2 horseless carriages in Sewell in 1907. Mr. Walker pantomimed, listening, with his hand held to his ear. Then, dropping his hand, he shuddered and jerked, at the same time emitting chugs and hisses, which he gradually diminished in volume until there was a final choo and a shudder. He fell silent, closed his eyes, and pretended to be asleep. This was to tell the zebras that if they would listen, they would hear the engine letting off steam and settling down for the night. Braun told me later that he had enjoyed Mr. Walker's performance very much, although neither nor his parents had understood it. Next, Mr. Walker pantomimed locking up the coach, driving home, eating supper, and finally lay down on a seat, tucked imaginary bedclothes around himself, and snored. Still puzzled, but believing that Mr. Walker meant them no ill, the zebras finally made up their minds to file out with their luggage onto the platform. Once outside, Mr. Walker was able to take the zebras up the platform, past the subsiding engine, and show them how the track stopped just beyond in a hayfield. At last, the zebras understood. Mr. Zebra set down the suitcases and, waving his arms, launched into a tirade more terrible than the one at Houghton Junction. Mrs. Zebra sat down on the bundle and wept. Braun threw himself howling on top of his mother. At the time, Mrs. Walker had been waiting patiently in the buggy to drive Mr. Walker home to supper. Mr. Walker turned to her for guidance. The Walkers agreed that they couldn't abandon the little family on the platform. They decided that they must persuade them to get into the buggy and then drive them up to Reverend Faunce's. Reverend Faunce had the world's softest heart, and Mrs. Faunce would know what to do next. Mrs. Walker drove the buggy alongside the zebras, and with smiles and gestures, both Walkers invited the zebras to climb in. It was during this operation that Braun refused the rose. Mr. Zebra watched the Walkers for some minutes before he decided to throw himself on their mercy. He loaded the suitcases and the bundle behind the seat, spoke to Mrs. Zebra and Braun, and helped them climb up. With a little bow and a gesture, he indicated that he would walk to save the horse. So, with Mr. Walker and Mr. Zebra walking down beside the horse, Mrs. Walker drove Braun and his mother to our house. My father and mother, my brother Haskell, and I were at the supper in the kitchen when Haskell, whose chair faced the east bay window, jumped up. "Well, I'll be—" He broke off to hold mother and father in suspense, and expecting and fearing a blasphemy. He craned his neck to see around or through the wisteria. "Jiggered," he finished tamely. "Can I believe my eyes? I just saw a buggy turn into the drive with the old goose woman and the little prince out of Edie's fairy story sitting up in the seat." He dropped his napkin and made for the hall and the side door. I jumped up and made after him. The buggy had pulled up, and there was Braun sitting in his mother's lap and smiling. The ride behind the horse had cheered him up. The sun, just about to dip behind our house, shone full on him, transforming his hair into a golden cloud. He did indeed look like a little prince in a fairy story. As Mr. Walker lifted him down, I reached out and touched his hair. I couldn't help it. I had to know how it felt. So the zebras came to Sewell and to us. We found out in time that their name was Zebrzicki, I think. Zebrzicki. Zebrzicki. I'm really bad. I'm assuming this is this is a Polish name. No one could pronounce it, so they were called Zebra for short. We also found out that they had emigrated from a small town in Poland, hoping to join relatives of uncertain name living somewhere in the northern United States. Soon after they landed in New York, Mr. Zebra had been tricked into giving away all his papers by a Polish-speaking crook who either needed them himself or sold them to someone else. Terrified of staying in New York, the zebras took a train north because they knew their relatives lived in that direction. My gosh, can you imagine going to a foreign country and then just kind of like, well, I know my relatives live in this town. I don't know their last name, but like times are not like that anymore. A series of mischances landed them in Sewell. By the time word came from the immigration authorities that we must either ship them back to Poland or be responsible for them, they had become a part of our lives. Mr. Zebra partitioned off half of the stable that wasn't occupied by Buster, our horse, and made a comfortable apartment for his family. He also took care of Buster and the vegetable garden, fixed the leak in the kitchen roof, mowed the grass, tended the flower beds, and pruned the arbor vitae and wisteria. In no time, he had our place, even though the buildings always needed paint, looking sprucer than it had since Grandfather Haskell's day. Mother found places for Mrs. Zebra to work by the day. She scrubbed things clean enough to satisfy the most particular housewives in the parish. Braun learned English so quickly and so well that Mr. and Mrs. Zebra, relying on him, never learned it at all. If they had learned to speak, or if there had been a Catholic church nearer than Houghton Landing, they might have mixed with the local people and made some friends. When they died, Braun was particularly distressed because he hadn't somehow, by water if not by land, got them to church more than once or twice a year. I felt guilty, too, when the zebras died. When I was a child, Mrs. Zebra had made effusively friendly overtures to me. Her effusiveness and her strangeness, she didn't even smell like other women, put me off. When I was older, though, I should have tried to learn a little Polish and talk to her about Braun and all his successes in school. They must often have been lonely and homesick, but on the whole, I think the zebras were better off with us in Sewell than they were likely to have been anywhere else in the country. They died within a few days of each other in the flu epidemic of 1919. Oh, wow. Braun was away at college. They did not understand old Dr. Davis's order to stay in bed. They went to work as usual, developed pneumonia, and died. Oh my God, that's like COVID. Braun spent far too much of his little inheritance on a fancy gravestone in the Catholic cemetery at Houghton Landing and on masses for their souls. I tried to persuade him that his parents would have preferred to have him use the money to continue his education, but he was stubborn, and Mother took his side. Let's see. We've got a lot more of this chapter left, so I think I might end right there. So she's going back to the present, so 1944 in the next little section. So I think we're going to end up right there. So what do you think, you guys? This is still like a big mystery. We don't know. I mean, I'm just trying to think here. We've got this immigrant guy. He seems to be about Aunt Edith's age, maybe a bit younger. I'm kind of wondering, like, why did the two of them not end up together? But maybe the age gap was too much. What could possibly be the mystery behind this crazy quilt? I'm fascinated by this. And this is such an interesting story. You know, I'm thinking about right now, like, you know, I mean, we've got an immigrant family. We've got, you know, in between, or I guess right at the beginning of a world war. You know, we've got references to this, you know, Spanish influenza epidemic. Like, so much that we can kind of, like refer to today. Very interesting. I hope you guys are enjoying this book. I certainly am. I mean, it's definitely supposed to be a young adult book, but I think it's written very well. It seems to be written like, it's not pandering to young people, I guess. And I don't even know. I mean, in the 1970s, like I think that, again, this is like 1971. Like what, like what was young adult literature? Like Nancy Drew, the Hardy Boys. Like that's kind of the stuff that I think, if you were a preteen or a young teen, that's the kind of stuff you read, right? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, this book was written literally like a year or two before I was born, so I'm definitely really very curious to find out what's happening here, what this big mystery is. Because I mean, like, what do you guys have any predictions? Like, what could it possibly be, right? Like about this this quilt, and like what exactly is the story? What is the situation? I mean, it's I don't know. Oh my gosh, you guys have been talking. Let's see. Okay, so okay, so you guys were chatting while I was okay. So I'm assuming, so Jerusha. Okay, thank you, Robin. You said Jerusha. Let's see. Oh, Druid, you're studying Russian too. I didn't realize that. I knew you were interested in language, but I knew about the German part. Yeah. Vocabulary is not that difficult. Oh, okay. But grammar is tricky in German. Yes. So she ends up going by Jerry. Let's see. I would never go by Jerry if my name was Jerusha. Yeah. Jerusha is mentioned in the Hebrew Bible as the wife of King Uzziah and the mother of King Jotham. She is also referred to as Jerusha in the Book of Chronicles. Yes, I knew it was a biblical name, but I didn't know the details. So Jerusha's significance lies in her role as the queen mother and her contribution to the continuation of the Davidic line of kings, so like King David, right? Name your next pet Jerusha. There was a TV show. What was it called? It took place at like America Ferrera was in it. This is not that long ago. When I say it was like the last time I saw it was like maybe mid-pandemic. I think maybe they canceled it, but it was supposed to clearly be like a Walmart, and America Ferrera was kind of the main character in it. And now I can't remember the name of the comedian who played like the store manager, but he was really like Ned Flanders, like, hey, hi diddly ho neighbor kind of guy. And he was very religious, and his wife was named Jerusha. And I think that might have been the very first time I heard the name Jerusha, and I realized it was a biblical name. So, a Lego tree with your granddaughter. That sounds like fun, Robin. All right. Well, we are all on our way out. So, I hope you guys have a super week. Tomorrow, Jill and I on Quilt Nerding on YouTube will be talking about the first chapter in the introductory section of Maine Quilts. So if you're following along with us, definitely get your reading done and come by. And if you're not reading the book, stop by anyway. I mean, we always talk about, interesting things, and yeah, I hope you'll join us. And if not, I will see you guys on Thursday. So I hope whatever the weather is in your neck of the woods, that you're staying cool and or warm. I feel like California is having the lovely weather. We're having this like heat wave from hell. So yeah, I hope you guys take care and have a super week. And I will see you either tomorrow or Thursday. And thank you so much for being here. I could not do this without you. And I appreciate you guys very much. So take care. Happy Monday. And have a great week. Mwah! Bye, guys.